let's move on to our first speaker of today, Alison Stewart from NESCAN, who will be sharing with us today the story of Northeast Scotland Communities Our Green Journey, a film partnership with a Station House Media Unit. So off to you, Alison. Thank you so much again for coming.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. As Joanne just said, I'm Alison Stewart. I'm the Hub Manager of the NESCAN Hub, which is one of the first two regional community climate action hubs here in Scotland. And obviously, you know about the network that SCAN is creating of coordinators to build up new hubs throughout the whole of Scotland. So NESCAN and the hub covers Aberdeen City and Aberdeenshire. The NESCAN, the network started up in late 2020, early 21, with the hub itself starting in November 2021. So when we started, about 13 members. There were people that we all kind of knew anyway. We thought we'd formalize our network. By this month, we now have over 110 members and over 20 CIC members. We're a CIC, a community interest company. So that's just a little bit of background about us. Our aims are to support and develop community-led climate action throughout Aberdeen City and Aberdeenshire, and to support communities to be part of a just transition to a sustainable North East Scotland, contributing to the local, regional and national policy setting and decision making. So being that conduit between people and power, and hopefully distributing the power to the people as well. So when we're thinking about what we could do to really help people, to help support them and develop community climate action here in the northeast of Scotland, we thought, okay, we'll do the usual, and we can put on resources onto our website. And one of the pictures there you'll see is one of our resource sites on food and community climate action. But then we also thought, well, that's great, but people learn in different ways. They learn by watching, they learn by listening, they learn by just reading, they learn also more strongly by teaching. So we thought, how can we do this in a fun way? So we thought, well, actually, what we want is a video database. And we talked about having a video database of just lots of different community projects going on in the Northeast. So people would be inspired by what they saw and reach out to those groups and just develop their own project based around that. But we thought, well, actually, why don't we go one bigger than that? Why don't we just do a film? And we'll do the film, and then what comes out of it, the other side, will also be a video database. So that's what we started doing. And there's some just photographs of, or here you can see that we've got the community climate action page. We've also got a map of different projects going on in Aberdeen City and Shire. You can see the filming, and you can see some of the projects as well. And our film is on YouTube. So this is our film, North East Scotland Communities, Our Green Journey. We managed to get a forward from the CAP Sec, Michael Matheson, and we got lots of different people, our members, to actually come along and talk about in their projects what they were doing. So it was to prompt, basically one of the objectives that we have in NESCAN Hub for this year and last year was to map, celebrate and prompt replication of local community-led climate action projects. So the film is quite long, it's an hour and 10. I just managed to get it reduced a little bit again, but we had 21 separate projects filmed together with the forward from Michael Matheson. There were different themes of nature and biodiversity, energy, buildings, transport, education, activism, circular economy, and just transition. We didn't limit, we just asked our members who wanted to be part of the film. I think actually going forward, I would be more going out deliberately and specifically asking certain projects to come forward. So we had a really balanced amount on each of different theme. That's something that I think would be a learning in the future. But that's what we did. So we went into partnership with SHMU, Station House Media Unit in Aberdeen, who are a social enterprise in Aberdeen, or not actually an open charity, because they had the expertise that we didn't. We didn't know how to do the filming. So Foster's Films went and filmed along with Brian from SHMU, and we set up. We did all the kind of admin and the setting up of who was going to get filmed and when they were going to get filmed and all the rest of it. What I would suggest is, obviously, like any project, know what you want it to do before you start. So our aim was to have film showings and celebrate and bring people in and get people to get enthused, and they could speak to the people who actually were in the film, to create a video database, like I said, and also to enable the groups that took part to have their own promotional material that then they could be edited in a way that they wanted to be able to put onto their own websites or social media. So it was kind of multiple fold, as it were. And I think that's quite a good way to do it as well. So the film filming took place over a huge amount of time, a couple of months. Brian and Augustus were working together with different groups, and then it was edited, and we had showings all over Aberdeen City and Shire. Well, I say all over, we had 3 different showings in Ellen, Banchory and Aberdeen, in theatres and cinemas. So or ones that normally would act as community theatres, which was really good. It was a shame because the filmings were right when the Queen died, so we couldn't promote them as much as we wanted. Also, we didn't ask all the communities who are part of it in time really to be a huge part of it, so that's something that we tried to do better for the later showings of the film. But I definitely think the tea and biscuits really helps, and it's great to have like different groups there with their own kind of material, their own stalls, so people can talk to them afterwards. It is difficult, as we all know, to get people who aren't involved in the film to come, and I think we could have done better with that. But as I say, it was a difficult time with the Queen's funeral and everything, and then you're not allowing to really go for it in relation to publicity. We did try as much as we possibly could, but we could have done better on that. So plan far ahead. Get all your comms in far ahead, get people signed up far ahead. We left the virtual screenings till after we'd done the physical screenings so that we get people to the physical screenings. We have this allowed people to, it's on YouTube for anyone to have their own screens, and we have encouraged our members to have screenings of the film. We are going to have another screening in Climate Week in the James Hunt Institute, and there are other ones that we're going to do as well physically after that point as well. But we're going to also do online film screenings as well. I think having a different mechanisms for people to be able to watch it is really good, so they can do it in a group, they can do it individually, they can come along to a screening. It just enables them to have more flexibility. So really, that's all I have to say in it. If you have any questions, then you can ask them afterwards, after everyone's spoken, I think it is. But I will say it was a really valuable thing to do. It was when I watched the film, and I watched it loads of times because I have to. I always get this kind of like just so proud of what we're doing in the northeast of Scotland and what all the communities are doing, and just it's really motivating, I feel, watching it and just getting all the passion. So I do feel it's a really valuable way of showcasing different projects and trying to encourage people to come and take these kinds of actions themselves. But anyway, I'm going to stop there and allow the next person to speak.
Thank you so much, Alison. Yeah, that was a really good note to end on, and I guess that is the power of one of the many powers that a story has. And sometimes when you look back and you put all these projects together, all these things that you do, like sometimes you might not see them because they're all fragmented. You might not see how much you are doing until you tell the whole story, until you put it all in the same film, and that is quite interesting, and I definitely can relate. So I hope it's inspiring for you guys as well to think about when telling your stories. When you pull them all together, you're going to see you've done way much more than what you think you did sometimes. So thank you so much, Alison, for the valuable work that NESCAN has been doing, and for coming today and telling us a bit more about this project. So our next speaker, Casca Hempel, she will be speaking on behalf of Plant and Tayport Climate Cafes, but Casca is also a story weaver together with myself for SCAN, and works with Climate for Change conversations as well, that has a component of personal journey, personal narrative. So Casca is involved with stories in many ways, from the 1,000 Better Stories blog with SCAN to Climate for Change, and to this amazing project, A Journey to Tayport in 2030, that talks about community vision. So Casca, off to you.
Thanks, Joanna, for the introduction. So as Joanna said, you probably know me as a story SCAN weaver, but I also am the lead on SCAN Climate for Change program. But here I'm in my other hat, or multiple hats, to talk about the work I've been doing in the community where I live, in Tayport, which is across the Tay from Dundee. So in the past, I was a co-creator and then an employee of Plant, which is people learning about Tayport. It's a Tayport Community Trust gardening group, which is running a community garden, our local community garden. And these days, I also run our Tayport Climate Cafe on a volunteer basis. And today, I represent these two organizations. And I wanted to take you on a little journey into Tayport of the future, into the year 2030. And I'm hoping that I actually shared my sound. So by the magic of teleportation, we're going into the future.
Welcome to the walking tour of Tayport in 2030. It's been only 9 years since the historical moment when governments from around the world got together in Glasgow for COP26, for the crucial negotiations of international action on climate. At the time, scientists were telling us that we had around 10 years to bring about rapid reduction in our carbon emissions so that we can stop the worst of the climate crisis. Everyone knew it was urgent. The event brought this global problem right to our doorstep, and we thought it was important to show our community support for action on climate by throwing the Tayport Climate Festival in September 2021, which turned out to be an amazing couple of days. In November, as COP26 negotiators gathered in Glasgow, we gathered together in the Gregory Hall to create a vision of Tayport in 2030, coming up with local solutions that our community could make happen here, and in the process, to make Tayport a better place to live for all. In January 2022, Tayport Primary added our young people's voices to the vision of Tayport's future too, and we continue to add others since. Tayport Community Climate Action Group emerged from all of this, and it has worked since to bring people, businesses and community organisations together to make some of these ideas happen by creating Tayport Climate Action Plan and working with the Council and the regional network of like-minded community groups to bring it to life. This tour is showing off Tayport's achievements so far. Stop 1. One step from farm to fork. Take a quick look around you and then close your eyes. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Open your eyes and see what's in front of you in the summer of 2030. Ahead is a wonderfully thriving community garden. It's full of your neighbours and friends who are working on the family beds, sharing tools from the library of gardening tools based in the shipping container. Folk are helping each other out, swapping plants, stopping to blether and stretch their backs. Advice is being exchanged, a suggestion given, a nod of approval and laughter, lots of laughter. Everyone has come on foot, by push bike or electric bike, and there are charging points for them powered by the massive solar panels on the shed roof. You hear singing from the forest garden. It's the children enjoying themselves at the Wee Plantlets outdoor nursery. They're enjoying the space to run around and explore the edible hedge, which after 10 years of growth is producing apples, cherries and fruits of all sorts for people and the wildlife that is in abundance around it. The alders and shrubs that have replaced the big non-native cypress trees which used to frame the burn are alive with birdsong. Listen to the blackbird, robin, sparrow, goldfinch. Watch butterflies flit by and notice how the whole garden is alive with bees and other insects. You might catch a glimpse of beautifully crafted wooden sculpture.
So I'll stop it here. Always makes me smile, this story, because it's such a positive vision of the future. I hope you enjoyed this little introduction. You can finish the walk, this audio walking tour, either in person or virtually online in your own time. You can find the Easy Travel app or Easy Travel website, which is izi.travel in your browser, or you can download it onto your phone. And if you happen to be in Tayport, you can just walk around Tayport and explore the different spaces while listening to the narration. So it's a wonderful and really super easy way of exploring spaces with your own personal guide. As you heard in the introduction, all the ideas in the walking tour of Tayport in 2030 were based on a visioning day during COP26 in 2021. And that was organized by myself on behalf of Plant. And actually, we were very happy to be endorsed by Tayport Community Trust, as well as our Community Council, and was funded by CCF. Remember CCF, Climate Challenge Fund, which is no longer. And I wanted to give a shout out to Pam Kandea from Surefoot Effect, who helped us facilitate all the events on the day. And of course, there's lots and lots of people behind the scenes that made it happen as well. So it was a community effort. And to put it on, we drew on the Transitions pop-up tomorrow idea, which is based on the premise, you would have heard that, probably heard that climate crisis is a crisis of imagination. So instead of a formal planning session that these kind of visioning days might usually might turn into, we focused on waking up our imagination, and we time traveled into Tayport in 2030 and explored ideas of what we might see there and build very not to scale model. You can see that on the right here, not to scale model of Tayport that we saw there, and shared the stories, our own stories about it. And this was hopefully creating lots of delicious memories of the future, as Rob Hopkins says. And in theory, these stories of the future would work as an inspiration and a irresistible driving force to make them come to life in our community. Being in the room and experiencing that event was pretty amazing. It was so exciting. Everybody was very, very much excited on the day, and they were not just excited about coming together and sharing the stories, but they were excited about the, you know, what we might be able to do as a community, as well as what we're already doing in the community, because we didn't start from zero by no means. We wanted to capture this in something more engaging and inspiring than a written report or even a podcast or a video. And I was already using Easy Travel to showcase the work Plant's been doing over the years in taking care of Tayport Tour, which was based on our Plant Voices podcast. So I thought, you know, why not showcase the future in similar way? And we were incredibly lucky to be approached by a Cultivate project by Creative Dundee, which was funded by Creative Scotland's Culture Collective, and who then arranged for Zoe Swan, who was a young creative practitioner, to work with us. And Zoe was able to produce beautiful images to illustrate the tour, as well as take care of the sound production, which was fantastic. And then another key person to developing the story was Kathleen Gray, who's been a long-standing Plant volunteer and a creative writer. And she sort of was developing her digital storytelling skills while volunteering for Plant. And she helped shape the narrative from all the different disjointed ideas that we had from the visioning event. And just to illustrate the weird and wonderful sort of inspirations that come from sharing of stories and writing of stories and creating stories, is Kathleen is now writing climate fiction to showcase positive futures, or to imagine positive futures. So we've put her on a different track to what she was doing before. And in addition to our own imaginings, we also invited Tayport Primary to do their own sort of illustrations of the future combined with the stories. And that was pretty amazing. At the time, we couldn't go into the school, so the school was very proactive to get all the teachers to get their groups to contribute the stories to the narrative that we were trying to develop. We, of course, put together an exhibition at the end of all of it to showcase the walking tour, as well as the Tayport Primary creative work to the wider community, which was great and fantastic. But really the main, it wasn't just about sharing things, it's about making things happen, of course. So we wanted for the ideas to become true. We formed a little group to apply for Keep Scotland Beautiful's support for climate action plans, community climate action plans. Unfortunately, there was way too much competition, so we didn't get that support at the time. We're still working on ways of developing these more concrete and formalized ideas around the things that came out of the visioning. But it's sort of, things have come to a head a little bit because Plant lost its funding at the end of CCF, and so far we've not been able to replace it. So the energy behind the project sort of subsided a bit. But in the meantime, the vision is out there in this very concrete and imaginative format, so anybody can access it and get inspired by it. I've been using it as an engagement tool at events. I've been sending it to consultation requests. For example, SHMU Forest is developing a new management plan. We had some thoughts about rewilding there, and I send out a little story to the people in charge from that. But also to keep things going and start discussing things, we've started the Tayport Climate Cafe, which has been going since last year, and with our monthly meetings exploring ideas from Tayport in 2030. And we do have 100 subscribers to our newsletter and 20 to 30 people in every meeting. So I think we're keeping things warm, but, you know, and perhaps heading in the right direction to making things happen. And we also got shortlisted to, our walking tour got shortlisted to on Walk, Listen, Create Soundwalk Festival Awards. Unfortunately, no prizes, but that means we're reaching a much wider audience with a story and hopefully inspiring a wider audience out there as well. Last slide. So because we were so, you know, found this whole exercise so inspiring, and I saw how it inspired my community in terms of, you know, bringing people together in a what if exercise and creating that shared community story of the future we all want to see for our place and people that we all care about, and how that story then was so beautifully linked to the place we live in through the walking tour format. I'm really sort of quite keen to spread the idea of sharing place-based stories of climate action from our communities. The app is super easy to use, either as an audience or as a creator. We've been running workshops as through SCAN Storytelling Collective with my colleague Bronwyn Patrickson. And hopefully we'll continue to run these, and I'll encourage everybody to have a go at that. And we also have something in the works with Walk, Listen, Create people. We contributed to Climate Sound Walk Awards, which are in the planning. So this is going to be more specific awards and competition around sound walks, talking about climate issues. And the information about that is going to come out soon. So it might be worth actually applying for one of these if you have ideas to share through this medium. So that's me. And thank you for listening. And apologies for going over time.
Thank you so much, Kaska. There's never enough time for these things, but you know, hopefully you can get in touch with Kaska and discuss some of these ideas and the upcoming training as well at our email address, stories@scan.scot. So we'll put the links in the chat. And we're going to move on to our final speaker today, Leslie Ann Rose, a new addition to SCAN Stories team. Leslie Ann will be my maternity cover as a story weaver. So for the upcoming month, you will get to know Leslie Ann's work as a story weaver as well, and her unique contribution. But for today, the hat that she brings is not the hat of story weaver as well. She's going to talk to us about her project, Open Road, and following the theme of imagination that Kaska was mentioning. Open Road and Leslie, through Open Road, talks about folk and myth as a shared understanding of place as one of the main themes. So Leslie,
Hello everyone, I'm delighted to be speaking this afternoon. I'm Lesbian. I'm the co-founder of Open Road. We're a not-for-profit cultural organisation based in North East Scotland. I won't read it out, but this slide says what we do. So as Joanna says, I'm here to talk about myth and folklore in relation to story and climate, but I'm also going to extend that into talking about history and heritage and how the stories of the past can link with your visioning for the future of communities and bring together generations from the elderly to the yet to be born, as well as giving voice to the natural world through story and community action planning around the environment. I'd like to just very briefly share how my interest in this came about and the desire to sort of explore it more at a community level. So a couple of years ago, I had the privilege of working with Creative Carbon Scotland, who are an organisation, if you've not heard of them, that connects arts and sustainability. They're fantastic. And they organised a project called Cultural Adaptations, which was for European countries, asking how culture must adapt to the impacts of climate change and how we can use culture and creativity to help create a more positive future. Lots to learn. So there's a website there if you're interested to find out more. So I worked as an embedded artist with Climate Ready Clyde. For those of you who don't know, that's a cross-sector initiative supported by the Scottish Government to create a shared vision, strategy and action plan for the Glasgow City region. And my role was to really bring about a different way of thinking and writing and communicating that adaptation strategy for the region. And one of the things I was really trying to foster during my time with Climate Ready Clyde was a sense that change is nothing new to the Clyde Valley region. And the transition that they were planning was just another chapter really in the region's story, in the region's history, changed by the Industrial Revolution and shipbuilding. And then again in the 1980s when Glasgow embraced the European City of Culture. So just seeing their strategy as another part of the story and drawing on that bigger narrative of that sense of place, all brought to life through personal stories, both past and present and future. So that importance of bringing the story of the past into the future around climate action is just something I've always wanted to carry on with. So fast forward to the end of 2020, when the Scottish Government brought out a new fund called Culture Collective, with Kashka's already referenced, which was all about placing funding for culture at the heart of communities to rebuild post-COVID. We applied to run a project in Fitty, which is the harbour area of Aberdeen, and the project's called Safe Harbour Open Sea. I won't read that slide out, but you can get a sense of what Culture Collective is all about. There's a website there to explore more. But a key element is proactively responding to the impacts of COVID-19 and actively engaging people in shaping the future life of their communities. So here we are, here's Fitty and Safe Harbour Open Sea. So we're working in partnership with the Fitty Community Development Trust, which is a charitable organisation established to support the harbourside community. I just want to flag up that I live there. So Open Road is based there. I am part of the community. So what happens there impacts us too. I don't know if that gives us any more authenticity. I'm not sure, but far from being a kind of flash and dash arts or community climate change project, it's our patch. We're part of that people and place too. So a little bit more of background on Fitty, for those of you who might not know it, please come and visit us. We're a historic planned village. We're home to a small but very diverse community of around 160 people. We're also a conservation area, so an awareness of the past is with us the whole time. Fitty sits at the mouth of a global oil port, so complexity exists between that heritage of the past and the current reality of a city that's pivoting away from an economy dependent upon oil and gas. And then also, as a coastal community, the impacts of climate change on the future of the village. I also just want to flag up that in the context of COVID, it really changed the community. A number of the older residents passed away, and there's been an influx of new younger residents, which is great and natural. But the residents that passed away have been part of families that have been part of the community for generations. The last two house sales also were to holiday cottages as well. So that fabric of a community that knows its past, both in terms of people and place, is at risk of breaking down. And you know, we all know, and I believe that that importance of community cohesion when it comes to a just transition. So I'm not going to go through the whole project. There's three strands of it there: bringing a community space of a community hall back to life, collecting the stories of a community and climate ready community. And I'm really going to focus just on the storytelling side of it. At the start of the project, back in July 2021, I was really super keen to just push ahead with all of the climate work. I thought that was really important. But I realised we actually had to pause and we had to do due diligence to the past when planning for a sustainable future. Again, partly to keep that sense of community connection. So we started a process of story gathering, both of the past, but also of the present. What we found was that people really dressed up. They took sharing their stories really importantly. We made a book, we've made a visitor trail as well, Kashka, using different technology. We've made an exhibition. We've worked with an archivist on Sky about how to sort of see an archive as a living, breathing heart of a community and not something that's sort of kept on shelves or kept in an archive in a city centre. And we've also been working with them about their concept of tradition bearers. Tradition bearers are about the past, but they're actually about the future. They use the analogy of rowing a boat when you're going forwards, but you're looking backwards. And we both really believe you have to know where you came from before you know where you're going. So we've linked this with our environmental aspects in FITI through the principles of the good ancestor, which many of you might be familiar with, the importance of long-term thinking in a short-term world. The good ancestor encourages 7-generational thinking, that the decisions that we make now, we should think about 7 generations time, and FITI's 7 generations old. So there's really nice link between when the history was built and how we as residents now, if we could go back in time and talk to them and say, these are the decisions that we wish you would make or we would like you to make, and then taking that responsibility of residents now and thinking about the future. I really like this because it brings the voice of unborn generations into your kind of community action plan, which is so important. We've done lots of workshops around it, and from that we introduced the map of possibility, both as a community event, but also every letterbox has had a map of possibility through them. So the other way, that's kind of history and heritage, but also myth and folklore, and to sort of bring that sort of mythical narrative into our climate change narrative, we've commissioned a storyteller in residence who is Cara Roberts from One Nature Education. She's a storyteller, an educator, and a former countryside ranger, so she really knows both the environment and the story. Her post has been about sort of the community in times of change. We launched it on the day that the Queen died, and the last meeting that we had, Nicola Sturgeon resigned on the same day, so we've definitely hit spots of change during her time. Her role, she's delivered workshops and storytelling performances, and we've had a really lovely feedback of people saying, I haven't been told a story since I was a child, and just that different frame of mind that people kind of enter into when they go into that sort of mythic storytelling realm. This is her commission, to create a story of FITI from a mythic perspective, leading to a live performance, developing a story of place, incorporating voices of people and elements of the environment through archetypes and narrative structure. I think this is a really nice way to bring the voice of nature as a living sentient voice into your climate change narrative, and the biodiversity that also calls your community home. Cara's drawing on the sea, our links with the sun and fishing nets and birds, and using those to kind of weave in personal narratives as well. All of this will be concluded with an exhibition called FITI Past, Present and Possibility at the end of April, which you're very welcome to come along to, and Cara will be doing a live storytelling performance as part of that. Almost in time, 9 minutes left. So just to conclude, this is just one of many storytelling projects that we've undertaken at Open Road within a community context, and I really believe in the importance of them. Now more than ever, I think it's really important to link generations from great-grandparents to grandchildren, also those that have passed and those that are yet to come, as well as the voices of stories of nature and the natural world of which we are all part of. Those are our contact details. Please do get in touch, and thank you for giving me the chance to speak this afternoon.